Hello there, people! First of all, I want to thank every one of you who subscribed and interacted with the channel. You're really helping my work here, so a big thank you. Until now, I've focused on game genres for my Metacritic Plus user reviews precise scoring method, where we try to figure out what really not only critics, but also the gaming public really appreciate and consider to be the best of the best. But since I consider variation a strong point in a gaming channel, I will gonna focus for now on the best games by platform and not genre, so that you can have more variety here. So, with that out of the way, let's begin. The original PlayStation is one of the most important consoles in gaming history. It was a time when the industry was transitioning into 3D, genres were being redefined, and many franchises that are still huge today were just beginning. Because of that, trying to rank the greatest PlayStation 1 games of all time is not easy, and personal nostalgia can easily influence the list. Some of these games are obvious choices, others might be a bit more surprising, but all of them had a major impact on the PlayStation era and gaming as a whole. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the greatest PS1 games of all time. Hello there, people! First of all, I want to thank every one of you who subscribed and interacted with the channel. You're really helping my work here, so a big thank you. Until now, I've focused on game genres for my Metacritic Plus user reviews precise scoring method, where we try to figure out what really not only critics, but also the gaming public really appreciate and consider to be the best of the best. But since I consider variation a strong point in a gaming channel, I will gonna focus for now on the best games by platform and not genre, so that you can have more variety here. So, with that out of the way, let's begin. The original PlayStation is one of the most important consoles in gaming history. It was a time when the industry was transitioning into 3D, genres were being redefined, and many franchises that are still huge today were just beginning. Because of that, trying to rank the greatest PlayStation 1 games of all time is not easy, and personal nostalgia can easily influence the list. Some of these games are obvious choices, others might be a bit more surprising, but all of them had a major impact on the PlayStation era and gaming as a whole. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the greatest PS1 games of all time. Silent Hill is one of those PlayStation games that focused less on action and more on atmosphere, psychological horror, and emotional tension. The combat is deliberately clunky and uncomfortable, but that actually works in the game's favor, making the player feel vulnerable rather than powerful. What really makes the game stand out is the town itself. Silent Hill feels empty, oppressive, and constantly unsettling, with fog, sound design, and music creating a sense of dread that few games at the time could match. Looking back, Silent Hill didn't just create a horror game, it helped define psychological horror in gaming and influenced the genre for years. For me personally, it stands on top of every other survival horror game, a masterpiece. Final Fantasy VIII is one of the most unusual and experimental entries in the series, and that's part of what makes it so interesting to look back on. Instead of traditional progression systems, the game uses the junction system, allowing players to link magic to stats and completely customize character growth, which makes the gameplay very flexible but also quite complex. The story takes a more personal and romantic direction compared to other entries, focusing heavily on its characters and their relationships. Looking back, Final Fantasy VIII feels like a very bold project, imperfect in some ways, but ambitious, distinctive, and very memorable for the PlayStation era. Street Fighter Alpha 3 is one of the most content-rich and mechanically deep fighting games released on the original PlayStation. What makes it particularly interesting is the 3 fighting style system, which allows players to choose between different mechanics and strategies, effectively changing how each character is played. The roster is massive for its time, and the World Tour mode adds a progression element that was quite unusual for fighting games back then. Looking back, Alpha 3 feels like a complete package, combining technical depth, variety, and replayability in a way that helped define competitive fighting games on the PlayStation. Crash Team Racing is often remembered as just a PlayStation kart racer, but the more you play it, the more you realize how technical and skill-based it actually is. The drifting and boost system gives the game a surprising amount of depth, rewarding players who learn track layouts, timing, and speed management rather than relying purely on items. The adventure mode also adds structure and progression, something that wasn't common in kart racers at the time. Looking back, Crash Team Racing stands out not just as a fun multiplayer game, but as one of the most mechanically solid and competitive kart racers of its era. As I've always said, a more than worthy rival to Nintendo's Mario Kart. Spyro Year of the Dragon feels like a refinement of everything the series had been building up to on the PlayStation. The core gameplay remains centered on exploration, platforming, and collecting, but the variety is noticeably expanded through new playable characters, each with their own mechanics and level design. This adds a different rhythm to the experience, keeping it consistently engaging. At the same time, the worlds are colorful, creative, and filled with small details that reward curiosity. Looking back, it stands out as one of the most polished and complete 3D platformers on the system, capturing the charm and creativity that defined the PS1 era. Resident Evil Director's Cut is one of the defining survival horror experiences of the PlayStation era, and it's interesting to look at how much of the genre's identity was already established here. The fixed camera angles, limited resources, and deliberate pacing create a constant sense of tension where every decision feels important. Movement is slow and sometimes awkward, but that actually adds to the atmosphere rather than detracting from it. The Spencer Mansion itself becomes almost like a character, full of puzzles, locked doors, and hidden paths. Looking back, this game didn't just start a series, it helped define survival horror as a genre. Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver is one of the more ambitious and atmospheric games released on the PlayStation. What makes it stand out is the world design and the mechanic of shifting between the material and spectral realms, which changes the environment and turns exploration into a puzzle itself. Combat is present, but the game focuses more on exploration, platforming, and environmental puzzles than pure action. The story is also unusually complex for its time, with strong voice acting and a dark, philosophical tone that gives the world real identity. Looking back, Soul Reaver feels like a game driven more by atmosphere and world building than mechanics, which makes it very memorable. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is one of those PlayStation games that GDK ramps up tension and unpredictability to a level few survival horror titles reached at the time. The core mechanics are similar to its predecessors: resource management, fixed camera angles, and deliberate movement, but the addition of Nemesis, a relentless, roaming enemy, changes everything. Encounters with him force players to adapt constantly, creating a sense of dread that persists GDK. Combined with diverse GDK and strategic combat, it keeps players on edge from start to finish. Looking back, Nemesis isn't just a sequel, it's a masterclass in escalating suspense and horror GDK on the PS1. GDK Vagrant Story is one of those PlayStation games that feels like a hidden masterpiece, blending deep RPG mechanics with atmospheric storytelling and intricate level design. Combat is deliberate and tactical, focusing on targeting specific enemy body parts and carefully managing equipment and abilities, which rewards patience and strategy. The narrative is dark and mature, with political intrigue, complex characters, and a world full of secrets that encourages exploration. Looking back, Vagrant Story stands out not just for its mechanics, but for how it combines story, setting, and gameplay into a cohesive, sophisticated experience that still feels unique on the PS1. Gran Turismo 2 is one of those PlayStation games that redefined what a racing simulator could be. With hundreds of cars and dozens of tracks, it offered an unprecedented level of depth and realism for its time, rewarding players who mastered driving physics and track knowledge. The progression system, from license tests to tournaments, creates a satisfying loop that encourages skill development rather than relying on luck. Beyond mechanics, the game's attention to detail, from car handling to track design, makes every race feel deliberate and immersive. Looking back, GT2 didn't just perfect the racing formula on PS1, it set a standard for simulation racing for years to come. Chrono Cross is one of those PlayStation RPGs that immediately stands out for its ambition and creativity. The combat system is turn-based but layered, with a unique element grid that rewards strategic planning and experimentation. Beyond mechanics, the game is visually stunning for its era, with vibrant environments and memorable character designs that bring its world to life. The story is complex and intertwined, exploring themes of parallel worlds, identity, and consequence, which gives the game an unusually reflective tone. Looking back, Chrono Cross isn't just a sequel to Chrono Trigger, it's a bold, distinctive RPG that pushed the PlayStation's storytelling and design possibilities to their limits. Gran Turismo on the original PlayStation is one of those games that completely redefined what a racing game could be. At a time when arcade racers dominated, it introduced realistic physics, car customization, and a progression system built around earning licenses and competing in increasingly difficult races. Every vehicle feels distinct, and learning the nuances of each track rewards precision and practice. Beyond the gameplay, its sheer scope and attention to detail made it feel like a true driving simulator on a console. Looking back, Gran Turismo set the foundation not just for its own franchise, but for realistic racing games on consoles for decades to come. Resident Evil 2 is one of those PlayStation games that perfected the survival horror formula, blending tense combat, resource management, and atmospheric level design into a seamless experience. The dual campaigns offer different perspectives on the story, encouraging exploration and strategic play, while every encounter with zombies or other enemies demands careful planning. The mansion and Raccoon City environments feel alive and oppressive, with sound design and camera angles heightening the tension at every turn. Looking back, RE2 didn't just expand the series, it helped define survival horror as a genre and set a benchmark for storytelling and gameplay on the PS1. Crash Bandicoot Warped is one of those PlayStation games that perfectly refined the formula of its predecessors, blending platforming, speed, and creativity into a highly polished experience. Each level introduces new mechanics, vehicles, and challenges that keep the gameplay fresh, while the world design rewards exploration and mastery. The game's balance between precision platforming and fun, cartoonish spectacle makes it accessible but also deeply satisfying for skilled players. Looking back, Warped stands out as the pinnacle of the Crash Bandicoot trilogy, showcasing the PlayStation at its creative and technical peak for 3D platformers. And Mario was rivaled once again. Final Fantasy VII is one of those PlayStation games that not only defined the RPG genre, but also left a lasting cultural impact. Its turn-based combat is classic yet deep, with the materia system allowing for strategic customization of abilities and magic. Beyond mechanics, the story is epic, with memorable characters, emotional twists, and a world that feels alive and richly detailed. The game also pushed the PlayStation hardware with pre-rendered backgrounds, cinematic cutscenes, and a sweeping soundtrack that still resonates today. Looking back, Final Fantasy VII isn't just a game, it's a landmark in storytelling, design, and the evolution of JRPGs on consoles. Final Fantasy IX is one of those PlayStation games that feels like a love letter to the entire series, embracing classic fantasy while refining its RPG mechanics. The turn-based combat is accessible but offers depth through abilities, equipment, and the active time battle system. Beyond gameplay, the story is heartfelt and whimsical, focusing on themes of identity, friendship, and purpose, with characters that are memorable and deeply human. The world of Gaia is vibrant and full of personality, encouraging exploration and curiosity. Looking back, Final Fantasy IX stands as one of the most charming and polished JRPGs on the PS1, combining nostalgia with refined gameplay and storytelling. Personally, it is my all-time favorite Final Fantasy. Tekken 3 is one of those PlayStation games that elevated fighting games to a new level of depth and accessibility. The roster is diverse, each character offering unique movesets and strategies, while the fluid animations and responsive controls make every match feel precise and satisfying. What makes it particularly memorable is the balance between casual fun and competitive depth. New players can enjoy basic combos, while veterans can master advanced techniques for intense battles. Looking back, Tekken 3 didn't just define the series. It set the standard for 3D fighting games on consoles and remains a benchmark for gameplay, balance, and design. Castlevania Symphony of the Night is one of those PlayStation games that transformed the action platformer into the Metroidvania style we know today. Exploration, backtracking, and character progression are all central, with weapons, spells, and abilities giving the player a real sense of growth and agency. The castle itself feels alive, full of secrets, hidden areas, and challenges that reward curiosity. Beyond gameplay, the soundtrack, visuals, and gothic atmosphere make the world unforgettable. Looking back, SOTN isn't just a great PS1 game. It set the standard for non-linear design and player-driven exploration in action games for years to come. It is my favorite game of all time without any doubt, and it will probably ever be. And at the very top of our PlayStation list is Metal Gear Solid, a game that didn't just define stealth gameplay, it practically created a new standard for narrative-driven action on consoles. Its mechanics were revolutionary for the time, blending sneaking, evasion, and strategic planning with cinematic set pieces that made every encounter memorable. Beyond gameplay, the story is complex, filled with espionage, intrigue, and characters who feel real, while the audio-visual presentation, including cutscenes, voice acting, and soundtrack, immerses you completely in its world. Looking back, Metal Gear Solid isn't just the best PS1 game, it's a landmark in gaming history that influenced countless titles across genres. And that wraps up our list of the top PS1 games of all time. From genre-defining RPGs to unforgettable platformers and groundbreaking action titles, these games didn't just entertain, they shaped an entire generation of gaming. Of course, with a console as beloved as the PlayStation, there's always debate. Did your favorite make the list? Or do you think we missed a classic? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss future rankings. We've got more consoles, genres, and hidden gems coming up, and trust me, you won't want to miss those. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.